Hello and welcome to this week's talk. I'm Insecurities from pleasureforhealth.com and I'm curator of this Facebook group, Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion and Pleasure. Today we're going to talk about how we move through the feelings of insecurity after having an abusive relationship, and how do we move forward with finding new relationships and new ways of being in new relationships, so that we don't end up just going through the same patterns over and over again. So for those of you who are on live, that's great. If you want to find out more about me and my programs, you can look at my website, pleasureforhealth.com. And I offer free breakthrough calls of 1 hour. This is for women that are really ready to make this kind of transformation and commitment to themselves. And you can sign up immediately on my calendar to do this by going to www.ailsakepi.com/apply. And that's for you if you're really ready to dig into what's going on for you and how you want to transform yourself. How would you like to be in the world if we could help you move through these types of insecurities? So today I just wanted to dig a little deeper into how it feels when we get out of a abusive relationship. How, lots of you have mentioned having a lot of anxiety about meeting someone new. Are they going to be good to you? Are they really what they say they are? You have insecurity about just going out in general, making new friends. You've gotten so used to having a traumatized nervous system that's on high alert all the time. It's really hard to think about having a normal relationship with anyone. I've even worked with a couple of women that found relating to their children became difficult after getting out of an abusive relationship. You know, sometimes it's too much when your kids are being needy or screaming at you or, needing something, and you just can't cope right then. So all of these types of, insecurities, kind of hyper arousal around having a new relationship or any kind of interaction with people is a very common feeling to have after you've been through trauma and abuse. So first of all, just to let yourself relax into knowing that you're okay and that you've made it through something. You've made a decision to join this group. You've made a decision to kind of look at yourself and your relationships more closely. We actually do find that being with a narcissist kind of shatters your whole world of how you look at yourself, how you placed yourself in the world. As women, we're often told in society that, our role is to we have these standards, we have to be a good mother, a good wife, a good, good at relationships. And so when you've ended up trying to do that and living by the society's standards around that, and it hasn't worked out because maybe this person has lied to you, cheated on you, not being truthful about who they are. They've given you a persona that hasn't been their real self. So when this pseudo relationship with this abuser has all completely gone to hell, you end up feeling like, a failure. And then all the shame can come up around that, all the inadequacy, feelings of being alone, nobody can understand. All of those feelings are, your values, and you're a failure because you haven't managed as a woman to keep your relationship together, to keep your husband or this person, whoever it was in your life. And you're supposed to be able to do that as a woman. This is something we're often taught. And so these feelings of shame and pain and loneliness can really get triggered very highly. And this can lead us to a couple of different pathways. And I think this is where, most of us are when we join the group here. We're kind of at this crossroads. This whole demolishing of what we thought we were living by, the values we wanted to live by. We wanted to be successful. We wanted to be in a good family relationship. We wanted to have, the house and the kids, and it seemed like it was perfect. And narcissists are very good at creating that whole image. So we buy into that image. We've put all our heart and soul into that. and then it gets demolished because we find out this is not true. So here we are at this crossroads of what can happen in our lives, and we have a choice at this point, or there's a possibility of a choice. And one way of choosing is to kind of bury our head in the sand, take it on that it's our fault, and take on the anxiety and the insecurity ourselves, and hope that, next time the person that we fall for, or the person that falls for us, is going to be a good person, and that everything will be okay. We'll just do the same thing, we'll put our energy into the relationship, we'll be, a nice person, we'll be a good wife, we'll be whatever, and that it will work because this other person will be the right person, and they'll appreciate us, and they'll put us, it will all work out, and we can live by the rules and the values that society has given us. So this sometimes works. Very rarely it works. That you actually do meet someone nice, and then you carry on the same way, and it works out. Great. Wonderful. For a lot of people, and a lot of you I know, have had multiple bad relationships in a row, and you begin to wonder, why is this not working for me? Well, it's not working because it very rarely works out that if you are naively following a path, that you end up on the right path. Every once in a while someone gets lucky and they live like this. But for the most part, most of us, if we are not consciously aware that we're at this crossroads and we choose to be different, to choose something different, to look at our own valuing of ourselves, to look at our relationship to ourselves, we're going, then we might have an opportunity to actually create and be in relationships that are more healthy, more fulfilling for us. So we're at this crossroads when we come to this point of just everything, blowing up in our faces. And so, a lot of you asked about, well, how do I deal with the insecurities of moving forward in a new relationship? Well, one is to realize that you're at a crossroads. If you've ended a relationship and you're looking for, the next one in a series, and yet you're not looking at, what do I need to change about my value system? What do I need to look at in myself? How could I take what I've learned in the past and bring it forward with wisdom into the future? If you're not doing that kind of work at this point, then you're pretty much, you're playing lucky aces. If you draw a good card, great. If you draw not a great card, you're going to, quite likely end up in a similar abusive relationship. So this is an opportunity. And what I think I would love to be able to impart to you, if there's anything that you get from this talk, is that having everything collapse around you is devastating, it's painful, and it hurts. However, it is also an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up. And when I say that, I mean, look at, where have you taken your values from? Who are you as a woman? What are you expecting in a relationship, or of yourself in a relationship? Because if you take the time at this point to find a good guide, some good wisdom, some people to help you feel supported, if you take this time now before you get into the next relationship to do some of this inner work, perhaps you can now navigate having a sense of yourself and moving forward in a way that will allow you to have not just security, but have a sense of identity as you move into another relationship, which will, completely transform your ability to experience something fulfilling and loving. So that's kind of, going from this place of, I haven't done it right, I've failed. A lot of us do take on those feelings, and our abusers are quite happy for us to take on the blame that everything's gone wrong and it's all to do with us. This is not necessarily a helpful place to stay. So if you see that that's the fact that you've taken on society's values, and that you want to start looking at what are your values. So when I take people into my 8-week program, for instance, one of the first exercises we do is exactly that. We start looking at what do we actually value? What are our own personal values? Or where do we get the values and thoughts from that we have been living by? These are some of the questions you want to ask yourself at the beginning of this process. What voices are in my head? Is it my mom's voice telling me, good girls do this? Or is it church telling you this is what you should do? So all of these beliefs that we've taken on, these ways that we've valued ourselves, this is a wonderful opportunity to kind of start looking at where that comes from. And that is really the beginning, a lot of the beginning of my program with women, is to start saying, hey, if you're feeling insecure and you're not sure what you're doing out there with new relationships, how about we start with the relationship here with ourselves? How about we start looking at, how did we get to be the person we are? Do we even know who we are? I mean, personally, just myself, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, what kind of clothes I liked. Nothing. And like a lot of you, because I've talked to a lot of you, have the same thing of like, I could ask you, what does your abusive partner like? What kind of meal is their favorite meal? What color is their favorite color? You would know everything about them. But if I asked you the same thing about yourself, there probably wouldn't be too much self-knowledge, because we've kind of not taken the time to really get to know ourselves. So again, this is something I recommend. If you're trying to, if you're at this crossroads and you want to jump into a next relationship because you're feeling, that you just need the company, or it's feeling painful, it's likely that you haven't really taken the time to just re-relate to yourself. So it's not wrong to do it that way, but it's harder to do it that way, because if you have somebody else to focus on and a new relationship, it's likely that if that's your tendency, you'll end up taking all your energy focusing on that new person, and you still won't be doing this work on yourself. So the work on yourself doesn't need to last 20 years. It doesn't need to last 5 years. It doesn't even need to last a year, but it needs to be done. We need to take some time to get to know ourselves. So this is really the gift in this crisis point, is it's an opportunity to awaken our own feelings and clear this lens through which we see reality and go deeper in our understanding of who we are. So these wake-up calls that we get often trigger past crises, and I know a lot of you have been posting about that, and it's absolutely a process, and I'm so glad that some of you are working through this, that the current crisis has triggered memories of past things that are coming up, things that we've avoided or repressed because we didn't feel ready to deal with it. So as they come up, just know that that's a process, and it's helping to move us through those things. So having those things come up means that we're ready to process it. And it represents an opportunity for this kind of integration between, some of these feelings, childlike, our inner child kind of feelings, with our adult self. And when we integrate those, we have much more likelihood of being able to move forward in a way that will, give us the experience of an enriching relationship. And it also gives us better coping skills for future events. Another thing that I have said to some of the women that have been through my program is that we're not going to change your life in 8 weeks. We're not going to suddenly come out at the end of 8 weeks and say, okay, you're never going to have any hardships again. It's all fixed. Because life doesn't happen like that. But what you do get out of 8 weeks of working like this is you have a sense of how to work through stuff. You have a sense of moving. You have a sense of having the coping skills and the ability to help yourself through these continuing life processes. So this is a huge thing. This is completely different from feeling overwhelmed and exhausted, tired, traumatized, stuck. These are the ways that I hear people describing what it feels like to be at this crossroads. And so if you have some good guidance at this point on how to make this relationship, first of all, with yourself, and overcome that insecurity with your own self, this will actually lead you to be able to have secure and healthy, happy relationships. So it's really, it's a normal feeling to feel lost at this point. I know it's very uncomfortable. It's not something that we aim to feel, but these crisis points that happen throughout our life, it's not just once or twice, they happen throughout our lives, whether it's an abusive relationship or cancer or somebody dying or whatever, these types of points happen. And when we feel this kind of feeling of being lost, that's exactly where we need to be so that we can go inwards and find kind of our new inner compass. How do we find this inner compass? And this idea of finding that is, is really what my program is about, and what I help you do is to find that relationship to yourself, that inner compass. When you have that, it's just like having a compass on a ship. You will have a sense of what direction that you need to go, and you'll be able to head in that direction confidently. And so some of you are saying you wanted this talk about how to deal with insecurities in a relationship. How you deal with it is to work with yourself first. Find this inner compass. Learn to know what you're feeling. Learn to be able to express what you're feeling. Learn to follow your intuition. Learn to have feelings and to work through that process with yourself. And then relationships become something you can build in a healthy way. And so, working with me will take you through that entire process, from finding out who you are all the way to, okay, now we want to create healthy relationships. What compass setting do I need to set it at? Before the whole stuff starts, we might be setting our compass on possibly a problematic setting that leads us into these same types of abusive relationships. When we come out of this process of transformation, we will have more of a sense of where we want to set our inner compass and how that will help us have healthy relationships. So really, what we're saying in all of these videos is take the time to find out who you are. Find some good guidance or a mentor to help you through this process. Someone that's been through the process, someone that can guide you step by step and help you do that. If you have not watched my free webinar, the 5 shifts to go through this process, you may find that a really helpful starting point. You can sign up and watch it right then, or you can get the replay sent to you if you sign up with your email on www.ailsakeppi.com. That's AILSAKEPPIE.com. That will take you directly to my free webinar training on this particular process that we're talking about. This is basically what I work with all my clients, and particularly those of us that have been through abusive relationships and we're at this point. This is a huge learning point for everyone, and we have the opportunity to make this a place where we choose a different path. So if you feel called to do that, please book a breakthrough call with me, watch the webinar, get in touch with me if you're interested in working more in this process. I look forward to talking to each and every one of you when you're ready to do this type of work. And other than that, I highly suggest also going and searching in this group for all the videos. There's every week a new video in here about different topics. And if you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, definitely let me know. And so we can bring in all these types of learning and help support each other to take these steps necessary to have a new experience in your life. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today, but I look forward to hearing from you all. Like, share the video, watch it together. I think there's a new thing on Facebook where you can set up times to watch videos together. Maybe that would be a fun thing to try. And definitely let me know what you thought of the video. All right, take care, everyone.